the breaking news that we got this afternoon, the criminal indictment of President Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton. We're showing you live images of John Bolton's home in Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C. And he's now released a statement saying the following: "For 4 decades, I have devoted my life to America's foreign policy and national security. I would never compromise those goals. I tried to do that during my tenure in the first Trump administration, but resigned when it became impossible to do so. Now I have become the latest target in weaponizing the Justice Department to charge those he deems to be his enemies with charges that were declined before or distort the facts. Dissent and disagreement are foundational to America's constitutional system and vitally important to our freedom. I look forward to the fight to defend my lawful conduct and to expose his abuse of power." So let's speak about that now with my panel tonight. Elizabeth Pipko is former spokeswoman for the Republican National Committee and the Trump campaign. And John W. McCarthy is with us in studio. He served as senior advisor for political engagement to President Biden. Welcome to you both. And Elizabeth, thank you so much for your patience. We've got your line up and working now, so great to have you with us. Let's start with that breaking news of John Bolton being indicted tonight, because this is pretty significant. And John, I'll start with you as you're here in studio. What do you make of this? Of course, we're seeing, again, the accusation that this is the political system being, the justice system, excuse me, being weaponized against President Trump's critics. And
I think that if the president's trying to beat the rap that the DOJ is being weaponized, I don't know that he's exactly doing that. But I would say I think that most Americans have heard more about classified documents in the last 4 or 5 years than perhaps they ever have before. Yeah. And, you know, I'm from New Jersey. We're pretty direct people. I would say when I'm talking to folks that I know, they'd be the first ones to say that it just sounds like more fighting in Washington. Republicans, when they're in power, go after Democrats, and Democrats go after Republicans when they're in power. And that's how voters are really perceiving this. So, you know, I think that there's real issues at hand here. You know, dealing with classified information is something that people need to take really seriously. And clearly there needs to be some kind of reform inside of the system to make sure that it is handled, you know, with the utmost care from public officials. That's clearly not happening at the moment. But I think Americans are kind of tired of this infighting. As we continue to look at those live pictures there in Maryland of John Bolton's home. And I should say we spoke earlier to Tom Dupree, who's the former Deputy Assistant Attorney General. And Elizabeth, he did say, you know, this is a far more extensive indictment than the previous 2 this month. But do you think that, as John said, you know, this could be used in an argument to say President Trump is going after his enemies?
Well, look, the media has done a very good job of spinning a lot of things having to do with President Trump since 2015, right? We've all seen that, and it depends how this is reported. It depends who is choosing to read it. I don't disagree with John that there is a lot of divide in our country. There's a lot of people that are going to open this headline and come to a judgment before they even read the story. At the same time, I don't think everything has to be presented as a witch hunt before actual details are shared, right, or any evidence is presented. I also don't think you can be immune from any kind of prosecution just because you happen to have spoken ill of the current president. As everyone, all of my favorite Democrats like to remind us, when Donald Trump was being prosecuted in every way, shape, and form, no one is above the law. So I think it's up to the court system to decide what's actually going on here, and I hope that people look at it with an open mind, and I hope we move forward, as John said, from Democrats or Republicans believing what they believe before they even see details being presented to them.
Fair enough, and we'll have to see this play through the courts, but I just want to put to you, Elizabeth, the fact that President Trump in September put out this post expressing frustration directly with his attorney general, saying, why has nothing been done? And he named James Comey, he named Letitia James. And we know that he has had this long-running feud with John Bolton as well.
Well, he's had a long-running feud with a lot of people, right? I think if you follow Donald Trump since 2015, like many of us had, he's had a feud with quite a few people. I really doubt most of them are going to be indicted. And like I said, you are not immune, for example, from prosecution just because you have any kind of feud with the sitting president of the United States. I personally see a difference between what's going on here and the weaponization of the Justice Department under Joe Biden against an actual opponent in the race. We'll leave it up to the American people to decide what they see going on here. But again, wouldn't anyone, Democrat or Republican, like for justice to be served in this case if there was an actual crime committed?
I will say, of course, that Joe Biden didn't publicly call for the prosecution of President Trump. But to your point, we will see this then, Elizabeth, play out in the courts. We're going to take a short break because I want to ask you both about the New York City mayoral race as well. And we'll come back in a moment. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.